This is the hardcore community. Sort of. You want to hear the music?
I've been debating how to start the very first episode, but I've got this. You ready? Yo! Welcome to Marked for Life. My name is Davin, and I'm going to be bringing you new hardcore music from across the genre and across the world, focusing on things that came out in the last 2 to 3 years. Because what's going on in hardcore right now is fucking sick. So before I start the first song, which is going to be great, I'm going to explain why I decided to do this. I think that this story would best be told in character. The year was 1995, and we wore our clothes so big, so shapeless, you didn't know that we had bodies inside of them. And our pants were so wide at the bottom, you'd have thought we were floating. But we had feet. Wow. But I'm just going to tell my story. So when I was coming up in hardcore, it was the 90s, and I lived in a really rural town in central Maine where I didn't know other hardcore kids. And it was really hard to get to shows because they were like 45 minutes away. And I was too young to know anyone with a driver's license. But despite that, there was so much cool stuff happening in hardcore. And I was only hearing about a very, very small fraction of it. I'm going to tell you a story that really illustrates this point, and it's embarrassing. So there was this band called Polyglot from my area, and they played, I think, the first show I ever went to, and they were sick. Like, they sounded like early 90s Satisfaction era Hatebreed, like definitely a good band. But they covered Misha by Integrity. They recorded it. I think it was on their demo or something. And I knew all the words, and I was like, oh, I love this song. It's so sick. And then I didn't hear about Integrity for like a decade after that or more. I mean, some like embarrassing, mind-blowingly long amount of time. And then when I did finally hear them, I heard Misha, and I was like, oh my God, this band is covering Polyglot from Brunswick, Maine. This is unbelievable. And the people I was with were like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then that's when I found out it was a cover. But here's my point. While I was listening to Polyglot play Integrity, and I had no idea who Integrity was, they were putting out Systems Overload, they were putting out Humanity is the Devil, they were playing shows. And when I did finally hear Integrity, I was like, fuck, how did I miss this? I feel so robbed, you know? So I feel like right now, because of the pandemic, we are living a lot like rural, early teenage hardcore kids from the 90s, where we're unable to get to shows because they're not happening. And we are disconnected from each other, so it's a lot like not knowing other hardcore kids. And despite how disconnected we are, there is so much happening in hardcore. And to think of all the integrities that we're not hearing about, and how much better our lives would be if we heard them now. So I've been thinking about this dilemma of disconnection from hardcore that we're all experiencing, myself included, and the bizarre parallel to being a kid growing up in Maine, desperate to feel a connection to and be involved in hardcore. And I had this on my mind as I was going through a box of old tapes, and then I found this old, unmarked black tape. And it was a tape I had recorded over like 1,000 times, and on it was a recording of a weekly hardcore radio show that came out of WUNH, which was the University of New Hampshire's, college radio station. And when I found this hardcore radio show, like the world of hardcore just exploded for me. Because before I found the radio show, I was finding out about new bands in the way that all 90s people found out about new bands, which was that we would just read the thank you lists of whatever, tape, record, CD, and say, Warzone, thanks, Agnostic Front. Okay, cool. They're probably great. I'm going to order an Agnostic Front record. And the problem with that was I was mostly hearing about an insulated scene of New York hardcore, which was very sick and still my favorite. But I was also mostly hearing about old bands. And they were bands that weren't playing anymore. And it wasn't really representative of the scene of the moment, Then I heard the radio show and I was like, oh shit. It was like little bands, big bands, current bands, different sounds, bands I could actually see. The coolest part was that even though I couldn't get to a lot of shows and I didn't know a lot of other hardcore kids, I still felt like I knew what was going on and I was part of it, because I was actively keeping up and listening. I was going to go into this kind of long comparison about how finding out about new bands in the liner notes is a lot like the crapshoot of finding out about a good new hardcore band now, because hardcore is promoted mostly through Instagram and Twitter, and that has like the lifespan of a fucking fruit fly. And you finding out about the band is dependent on your algorithm and who you have in your circle. And then if your friends are mostly in your region and friends in your region aren't hearing about a band that's across the country, well, I guess you're not hearing about them. So then you're just listening to the same old bands you always listen to, like me sitting atop a pile of New York hardcore records and listening to that one local band that covered Integrity who I didn't even fucking know existed. You are 14-year-old me. But I digress. Because I want to bring it back to that tape. Listening to the recording of that old radio show and thinking through all of these things that I just told you, I realized what we really need is the return of the hardcore radio show. Marked for Life will be every 2 weeks. And every 2 weeks, I will bring you 10 fresh tracks from 10 new bands, nothing before 2018. As I said at the top of the show, what is going on in hardcore right now is fucking sick. Since about 2016 or 2017, I would say there's just been waves and waves of bands and new releases coming out and tons of new kids coming in. And the scene is more diverse and more inclusive than ever before. One of my favorite parts of this kind of new era is that there are bands coming out all across the spectrum and getting a really incredible response. I truly appreciate everything that goes on, and I hope that you do too. So, let's give all these bands some love, our respect, and our attention, and get psyched for the day that shows come back, because we will be back. We will rebuild. All right, with that said, I am finally going to shut up, and you will never hear me talk this much again. This is not a podcast. This is a radio show. And first up is my favorite song that came out in the last few years, and this is Something for the Youth by Restraining Order. That was Spy from the Bay Area with a Violent Majority. That song is off their 4-song EP titled Service Weapon, which came out in 2020. Before that was Restraining Order from Connecticut and Massachusetts with the song Something for the Youth off their 2019 LP, This World Is Too Much. Next up, I'm going to play a 3-song block starting with the band Age of Apocalypse. I believe they're from upstate New York. Correct me if I'm wrong. This song is called Cowboy Behavior, and it's off their 2020 LP titled The Way. So I heard about this band when they put out a song on the One Scene Unity comp on From Within Records, and they were kind of like the sleeper hit. I wasn't expecting them. They're definitely a very unique band, and I really look forward to seeing them in the after times. And then coming up after that, 2 bands from Chicago, both super sick. The first one is MH Chaos. MH Chaos, Multiple Homefront Chaos. The song is called Herbicide. It's off their 2019 split with Invoke. And after that is Chicago's Buggin with My Rules off their 2020 self-titled EP.
We're fighting anew. Why don't you take all the memories too? Forgetting
Yo, that song gets me so hype. Buggin, killing it. They actually just dropped a single called Brain Freeze at the end of January, which has a bonus track. It is a cover of Gratitude by the Beastie Boys. It is so catchy. I think Buggin is a band we're going to be seeing a lot of in the future, and I am fucking psyched about that. Okay, next up is another 3-song block. First up are my friends, local Philly band. By the way, I'm in Philadelphia, best city in the country. This band is called Spirit Flaw. This is off their self-titled demo. It came out in 2020. Shout out to Ben, shout out to Travis. After that, I'm going to be playing LA's Zulu from their 2020 EP, My People, Hold On. And the song is called Do the Right Thing and Stop Frontin'. Zulu is sick because they're a very modern, heavy hardcore band, but the EP has an old school approach. There are some long samples, which reminds me of, 90s and early 2000s hardcore, and there's some spoken word that's kind of more on like the hip hop side of things. Zulu is one of the bands out there really promoting and pushing the Black perspective in hardcore, and I think that that's really fucking sick and very valuable. And after that is Game from the UK with the song D.B.M. off their 2019 full-length called No One Wins. This band has ex-members of Arms Race. One of the things I love about Game is all of the risks that the vocalist takes, and you can definitely hear that in this song. So sick.
Driving black eye. They will interrogate you if they think, say, that you fit the description of somebody they're looking for, like that time in a Temple City when they pull you over saying they're looking for a black boy. White people don't have to worry about things like that because they have the white privilege. But come you black, you have to be worried. As a black looking boy, even self say you're not black, they don't know that because you come black, you look black, you know, you have to be proud of who you are same way. So be vigilant, watch yourself, watch your step, watch even the areas that you go to. When you pull up in certain areas, scope it out before you get out the car. You know, always be safe, always move safe, always keep your movement safe. Watch the ones that you even, you know, holding vibes with too said way, because times well dread. You know, them don't really give two shits about our life. Babylon still out there, still raging, still ramping, still killing us. Yeah, man. Be careful out there, Galby. Watch yourself. Always know that Jah is watching over you too. Jah have you in his region, my youth.
Her voice is so insane. It's like Motorhead, hardcore, punk. It's very unique, very cool to hear. All right, we've come up to the last two songs of the episode. The first band is from Albany. They are called Spellrunner. The song is called Voyeur. It's off their 2019 LP, Always on the Cool. This band is really interesting because I think they've done something that no other hardcore band has ever done, which is combine surf with hardcore. And it actually sounds amazing. I mean, when I first heard this band, I started sending it to friends like, I think this is a new genre. I don't necessarily want to hear more bands in this genre, but I definitely want to hear more from Spellrunner. And the very last song I'm going to play is by a band that's gotten a lot of attention. I'm going to give it some more because they are great. They're called Pain of Truth. They're from Long Island. The song is called Pain of Truth, and it's off their EP, No Blame, Just Facts, which came out in 2020. So I guess that about wraps it up. So pull on your swim trunks, grab your bathing suit, and let's listen to Spellrunner.
dead hero or a live coward?
Whew. Imagine first show back, and that's the first band you see. That is how you die. You die in that pit, and I die beside you. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of Marked for Life. I will be back in 2 weeks with 10 more songs and 10 more bands. Okay, so while I was recording this, I made an Instagram and I made an email address, markedforlifehc on Instagram, markedforlifehc@gmail.com. There's one part of the show that we haven't talked about yet, and I think that it is best told as a story from that very special time in my life, which should be embarrassing, but somehow is not. So the radio show that I used to listen to was a lot like a regular radio show, like the alternative rock station or whatever. And every week, the hosts of the radio show would say, okay, if you have a request, call it in. And I was like, oh my God, I want to make a request. I want them to play my song. But my song at the time, because I didn't know a lot of bands, especially new ones. So my song was Keeping It Real by 25 to Life. And I called it in every week until I learned like new songs. And it became such a staple of the show that they used to call it Davin's Tough Guy Request of the Week. You too can experience the sickness of hearing your song on the radio. Send me a voice note to either the Instagram or the email. I will play your voice note on the air. Keep it brief and to the point. Shout out your friends if you want. Don't request your own band, you fucking nerd. I will roast you to the grave. If you're in a band, send me your stuff. Send me your friends' stuff, local stuff. I'm dying to hear new shit from all over the world. I can't guarantee that I will play everything, but I will definitely listen, and I will include as many as I can. Okay, I'll see you in 2 weeks, motherfuckers. Bye.
Like, I'll be watching the band play, like when the Cro-Mags played, the last show that they played. You know, it's like that music just made me move, you know, just made me start going off.